For example, Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz too. Let's get into it. Not
the biggest fight of the year.
No, not the biggest fight of the year. A decent fight, I think. If you're putting yourself outside the prediction, right? Because remember when this fight was first announced, our predictions for it were very low, and then with the marketing, it rose to a significant degree.
Like 400,000, right?
But remember, Rob, when this fight was announced, I think we were both saying like 200-something thousand, 250,000. We were predicting around where it actually.
We should have gone with the gut.
We should have. See, that's
fuck the promo. They all just left it on when the football finished. That's all. That's all it was. Great figures on the fight cam, but it was just left on after the Cowboys game.
I just think that this is a fight that was obviously going to be a loss, no matter what our prediction was. Even though our prediction was around 400,000 for all of us. I think yours was a little bit lower than me and Gary's. I think me and Gary's was over 400,000 pay-per-view buys, and and it did per Jake Donovan 275,000 pay-per-view buys from multiple sources. Per Dan Rayfield from one source, it did 225,000 buys. And I hope you understood with my framing of that why we went with the 275 in the title instead of the 225 from Dan Rayfield's reporting, because Jake Donovan has multiple sources. Dan Rayfield only has one in his report, I think.
What if Dan's one was the guy in charge of counting how many pay-per-views it was?
Maybe. But I just out there, people listening right now, why we put 275 and not 225, just because of that. That's the only reason why. The more information
you can get from more people, the more of an educated number you can come with.
Evan Rakowski of Aficionados Podcast didn't feel comfortable giving out a number, but he did say that regardless, it's going to be in this 200,000 range. That it's not going to have a 1 in front of it. It's not going to have a 3 in front of it. It's going to be either closer to Dan's, which is what he is thinking, but he's not comfortable giving a number yet, and because of that, I don't want to really go too much off of his reporting, to be honest. Because he didn't feel comfortable. I could tell in talking about it.
Yeah, what he said, I'm not quite comfortable to give that number just yet, but I think he'll obviously do some more digging. He'll go maybe a deep dive on it, as he likes to say. We'll do a deep dive on that, but yeah.
And so I think regardless, I think it's pretty reliable now to say that the pay-per-view did between somewhere around Dan's number to probably around the 275 of Jake Donovan. 250, whatever it is. It's in 200,000 pay-per-view buys. Was this a success? And we're going to get to the gate numbers in a second as well. I think just off the pay-per-views numbers, it's not a success. But like I said, I think we went into this knowing this was going to be a loss leader. That the undisclosed purses for Wilder and Luis Ortiz, the 20 million and was it 7 million?
20 and 7, about 27 million.
That it meant that their overall bottom line had to be so high that they probably just weren't going to meet it. Even with our high prediction of 400,000 pay-per-view buys. Even with that, if they hit that number, they would not have broke even here, to be honest.
No.
However, I think, as Evan says in his podcast, that this was a great experiment, it seems, to see in the NFL season what could Fox do with the marketing and what could it produce. Did that experiment ultimately fail? It's hard to sort of determine right now. Because also within the same week, we hear that PBC has signed a deal with In Demand as a pay-per-view distributor. In Demand's like Fox's main distributor. So basically all that is reaffirming that the business relationship between Fox, the pay-per-view industry, and PBC is still going to sustain itself at least in 2020. So it's weird. It's like it's weird conversation where we have to like talk about this fight as like, is it a success or not? Well, clearly it wasn't a success in terms of financials, but clearly nobody cared because all they're thinking about is Wilder Fury in February, and they're thinking that does an extreme buy rate. Now, I don't know if it does that. I'm doubtful it does that. I'm doubtful it hits that 2 million mark that Bob is talking about.
No.
But could it break 1 million? It's possible. It's hard. It's very difficult.
That's going to get one hell of a push. That's around the Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
Or something.
Yes.
So,
And again, I don't know really what else to say about this. Like, obviously, this conversation isn't one that I think I am the best to talk about, or even Rob is. Like again, I think Evan is a great source of information. Go check out the $15 podcast, even though he wasn't reliable to give, or not reliable. He didn't feel comfortable giving out a reliable number for the pay per view buy rate. He is a reliable source to go to for just understanding the pay per view market, the industry, how it works. As he used to work at HBO in their marketing department, so check out the $15 podcast. I think he had a good conversation or just monologue about what this means, what it means for Wilder Fury, what they got wrong in this fight. And I think he accurately said why this fight maybe didn't reach that 400,000 that like we thought it was, because the volume of marketing was right. Like the amount of promos they had, the amount of overall just budget they had, but the artistic side, it never really explained why this fight mattered, why you should buy this fight, who is Luis Ortiz. It didn't really do a good job of that in a basic promo package, which is 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, he said they got, like, shout out to Fox, they got the science
Yes.
right, but not the art or something. So they've got to, but as an experiment, like you say, purely just to cover the main event, this fell very short of doing that. They didn't, it didn't even cover, considering Fox will take a percentage. I believe that it's even lower than 40% that Fox take from the revenue. So it's not like a lot of people go with the 50-50, the network straight away takes 50%. With Fox, I'm led to believe it's like in the 30-35%, maybe even.
And also, depending on which fighter, it might change as well. Like Pacquiao probably gets a better split than, let's say, or Spence or Wilder.
Yeah. So, obviously financially, but again, that's not their primary concern at the moment. I don't think you quite got there yet, Matt, but with he's not sure who's actually taking that hit, whether it's Fox or whether it's like directly Waddell and Reed that are taking that hit. Financially, he said, I'm not sure. I'm not quite up to speed with where that would fall on the massive loss. But obviously, clearly, this has sort of tanked a lot of money. I think he even suggested maybe 8 figures by the time everything would be calculated and everything like that. But
if you're adding like marketing budget, probably
probably,
all that marketing budget for sure. Like the production costs of like Fight Camp, everything like that. Yeah, maybe 8 figures. Yeah, probably no.
So yeah, in that regard, it's not done that well. But going into it, this is kind of where we originally thought anyway. But we maybe at the time didn't realize Wilder was going to be getting 20 and Ortiz was getting 7. But, and Leo, I think it was a purse of 750. But obviously, you get the extra special bonus on top of that. And, you go down the card, there's all that to pay and whatever. But it's been put out there. Without it being pay-per-view, they wouldn't got anywhere near pay it. It would have been, even if it had just been on straight Fox, it would have, the money there isn't any other revenue coming in to kind of help pay that fighter's purses, and there isn't that money. So this is kind of like, you got Eddie Hearn one side of the pond saying pay-per-view's dead, this and never get the zone.
Why he's still doing pay-per-view?
Yeah, we're doing pay-per-views in the UK because he says without that pay-per-view money, we cannot pay the fighters that, the money, the network isn't putting up that money. So, it's whatever with pay-per-view. It seems like with a new deal struck, there's going to be more of them for Americans next year. Interestingly, Bob seems to think Wilder Fury 2 will be nowhere near $100 or 70. I think it's going to be a reduced.
Whatever that means.
Does that mean more people buy it? I mean, yeah, it's nowhere near $100.
$75.
It's like, okay. Well, yeah, that's good. That's $25 cheaper. Wait, that's what we normally fucking pay. But yeah, this is like, I think they can look at this as like a loss leader. It's like a Canelo fight on DAZN. They're not.
Yes.
They're not making that money back on DAZN. can't see how. If they are, great. If they're not, it's understandable because you're paying them a hell of a lot of money. And that's not getting sort of covered revenue wise. So this is like a loss leader, hoping that the big Fury fight and a potential trilogy with Fury is gonna claw it all back. I'm not convinced it will, personally. I think it's going to have to do serious gangbuster numbers with Fury to make up for the loss on this one, and and that. But they'll get a lot closer with the big rematch with Fury. But I personally don't see a million. It might do, but at the moment,
It's hard. It's hard to hit a million.
It really is. I think those days of, I don't know,
Well, look,
necessarily say they're gone, but
well, it's not even, I think people have a misconception about those days too. Like even within those days, like
it was still a rarity, kind of. There's only like one guy or maybe two guys doing it. It's not.
And even within those 1 or 2 guys doing it, that's not even a fight. Like
No.
like Mayweather Guerrero wasn't a million. Mayweather Andre Berto wasn't a million. That was like 480,000 buys. Canelo Liam Smith was around 275. Like it was around this buy rate. Was there any big conversation back then about how Golden Boy is losing money? No, not really. But Canelo Liam Smith did 275 or around that. I want to say like 285 maybe. Pacquiao, Jesse Vargas, obviously that did what 300 something thousand buys, but that gate was only like 3 million. And we can talk about that now. Wilder Ortiz gate.
Hey, I was going to say, look, if you want to take Floyd Mayweather, he went Gatti Mayweather 365, Mayweather Judah 375.
You need glasses.
No, I'm trying to move it up and down as I'm reading it. Mayweather Baldomir 325. Then it went De La Hoya 2.4 million. Then it went back down to 920,000 buys. And then he was more consistent around the 1 point whatever and like the high 900s. And then
go to Pacquiao.
Berto 400, and then the great, best versus the best, McGregor Mayweather did the big, 4 million plus whatever. So even one guy, it's not a consistent million. There was a little period of that, but in and around it. So I think that million mark is sort of mythical in a way, isn't it? It's held in such a.
And go check out Pacquiao's. Pacquiao's is far more spotty because he took a lot more, lower quality fights, let's say, and he fought more often, so that meant lower quality fights. Like the Joshua Clottey fight, for example, wasn't the best fight. Look at that buy rate. Look at his first few buy rates are like atrocious. I think his first pay per view he did like 150,000 buys.
Wait, what was his first pay per view? Would you say?
It starts with an L. I want to say his opponent's name. Yeah, I don't think it was the main event. I think it was the co-main event.
Oh, well, he was co-main on a De La Hoya card, right?
I want to say so, and it didn't do well. Like De La Hoya, even De La Hoya has spotty pay-per-view record. Roy Jones Jr. was never a pay-per-view star. But quickly just to
the gate.
Get all the information out there. Yes, the gate. Let me find that out. Let me get to it right here. Gate. Also, by the way, we received this info as well from Nevada, and to any reporter out there, a media member, just email commissions, just email these institutions and bodies. You'll be shocked what you get back and how easily they respond back. Trust me.
For sure. Shout out Colleen.
Yeah, Colleen. Anyways,
my sources.
Your sources. Where is it at? 7,403 tickets sold, with 1,726 complimentary tickets given out, with a total live gate of 4,063,000 with like 141.50. To put that in perspective for this year, because guys, I went through the trouble also and finding all of the sources. Also, just want to remind people, and I think Rob wants to get into this conversation in a bit. Fury Schwartz, 882,000 gate. Fury Wallin, 999,000 gate. Both fights in Vegas too. and Wilder Ortiz.
What is he talking about?
Wilder Ortiz to $4 million. So you're talking about like 4 times the gate revenue than Tyson Fury, the $100 million ESPN fighter. Pacquiao Broner also in Vegas this year with 11,000 tickets sold, or a little bit over 11,000 tickets sold, a little bit over a 6 million gate. UFC 239 just for a wider, sample size. John Jones, Thiago Santos in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, just over a $6 million gate and drew 18,000 people there.
Like 500 grand of it.
Yeah, you got 500 grand disclosed, by the way. Pacquiao Thurman did 6.26 million gate with around 11,000 tickets sold in Vegas as well. UFC 244, not in Vegas, but I thought it would be interesting because this was the big UFC fight competing with Canelo Kovalev, right? Masvidal Diaz, it did a $6.5 million gate in New York. And the biggest gate of the year that I know of, right, is obviously Canelo and Kovalev doing a $8.1 million gate.
Do you need glasses?
Yeah, I do. Well, it's the ESPN text, man. It's so small. Like,
it is, right? Yeah.
God,
yeah.
It's miserable. Off of 10,000 tickets sold. And for those that want to see just a easier, sort of spreadsheet look, I did on Twitter of all these gate revenues and which fights. I'm going to do one for other fights as well coming up soon. Or not coming up soon, like another tweet coming up soon about like other fights in the past. Obviously, like Pacquiao Vargas, which I just mentioned maybe a few minutes ago. That did like a $3 million gate in Vegas. I want to get a wider sample size of like what is a successful pay-per-view event. Like I want to find out like the Canelo Liam Smith gate, for example, because the pay-per-view wasn't that successful for that one. So did the gate offset that in any way? I think that one was in Texas too. But digressing, Rob, I want to get to your sort of the aspect, unless you want to talk about the gate at all.
No, it's I was very surprised by the dollar amount. I think that's very good. Like consider it didn't particularly sell that many tickets. So I think it averages about $550 per ticket. So to get 7,000 people to spend on average $550 good going, yeah, I was thinking around kind of 1.5 kind of gate kind of figure.
Quickly, sorry, because I just didn't see it because I'm stupid. Because guys, even I'm stupid sometimes. It happens. Canelo Dan Jacobs numbers, which I was looking for, by the way, and I couldn't find, were also on the Canelo Kovalev article.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
yeah, and that's 8.68 million at the gate. So that's actually the highest, not Canelo Kovalev. My mistake, and that was off of 15,000 tickets sold. That's where you probably get the extra little bump in revenue, that extra 600,000, so to speak, and 5,000 extra tickets. But digressing, sorry, Rob, back to you. I know you wanted to bring up the idea of the Wilder Fury 50-50 contract and how that's bullshit.
Right.
Expound on that, Rob. I just go off.
No, I just think I think the feeling was that Wilder needed a dance partner, and to get that dance partner, as far as we know, and it's sort of been reported, that the Wilder Fury rematch is a 50-50 split, with the third in the trilogy, would then the winner goes on to receive a 60-40 split. Now, just look at the gate, look at the dollar amounts that have come in from a Wilder fight, in a fight that nobody wanted to see. Nobody wanted this rematch. No one asked for this rematch. Yes, there was, he got helped by the doctor, but he then went and knocked Ortiz silly and did it. No one was like, this is controversial in any way.
Just to add, he's also, I think, in the top 10 U.S. TV viewership for boxing this year with the Brazil fight. That might be a top 15, but I know it's within that top 20 in terms of TV viewership for the year. Obviously, this pay-per-view wasn't a rounding success, but it was a pay-per-view that's done better than any ESPN pay-per-view recently or any top-ranked pay-per-view recently. And also, Tyson Fury's been fighting on a streaming app that we have no idea what his numbers are.
Yeah, we don't know what that has pulled in viewership, but we do know apparently it had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of new subscribers. Hang on, let me say that again. It's handed hundreds of thousands of new subscribers.
And I also want to remind people, I think it was the Schwartz fight or maybe in the Wallin fight. I forget which one it was. But they literally had more comps than sold tickets.
Yep. Yeah.
So
it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, this 50-50 deal seems like a fucking piece of shit business in my opinion. Although it's going to make them both a hell of a lot of money, and the people involved are going to be okay with it. But just purely looking at those numbers, Fury doesn't deserve 50%. A 50-50 split. You know, Wilder's clearly more of a draw. He's clearly more of he's the A side. You know, he's the A side in the fight, but
he gets my respect more. Like his competition level this year compared to Fury's. Fury's fighting sub 50 guys. 50, 5-0, not 15, 5-0.
But I know from the first fight, a lot of people feel Fury kind of, sold that fight a lot more than maybe what, he was out there, big, loud, clowning Wilder. He's going to be great value in that department. He's going to sell the hell out of it and do well.
Great dance partner.
So there's sort of pros to it, but just purely financially, what Wilder's just done in Vegas, and you combine Fury's, Uncle Sam, big coming to America, fancy walk to the ring, and then the Mexican, Nacho Libres, wrestling masks and sombreros. It didn't really amount to much, So just on a, I don't know, business side of things, that contract doesn't look particularly fantastic now. If you're a Wilder, going, why am I giving this fucking guy 50%?
Oh, Wilder could have definitely strong-armed it if he wanted to.
But signed, sealed, I guess, and at the moment, or it seems that way. I know it's not officially announced, but it's nearly Joshua fight day, so I expect it anytime soon.
Circling back to the point you brought up a while ago about the idea that the concept that some of these fights have, because of the market, because of the way the industry is set up, that they need to be pay-per-view fights for these fighters to get paid what they're asking for nowadays, right? And I think that is obviously a very true statement. Every promoter in the game has said that. Reporters are saying it. Like journalists are saying it. Like everyone within the industry has said this is just a basic fact of how some of these big fights have to get made, is that they have to be pay-per-view because the money they're asking for, networks just cannot dump that money into a single night of production. They just can't.
No, I mean, what's like a Showtime budget that was for the year?
60 million.
60 million.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this main event was 27 million.
There's no way Showtime can cover that all. Could they cover part of it? Yes. Could a network cover part of that? Absolutely. But you need to find other avenues of revenue, and one of them is pay-per-view, which the industry has been set up for a very long time. Rob, do you agree with me that pay-per-view is obviously like consumer? It's not consumer friendly. Pay-per-view.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, we've been asked to pay an extra £5 for this weekend's event. A lot of people seem to be quite angry about that. I'm not that. £5 is £5 as long as it doesn't stay like that, and then we get another increase a bit further down the line.
No, just I have several questions here. Yeah.
No, I just think. Okay, you carry on. But yeah, I think consumers
get hurt by pay-per-view just because we have to pay more than let's say the average sporting fan. Because
for sure, yeah,
football fans, whatever football you want, they don't pay for this.
If you've bought every pay-per-view stateside this year, that's $450 you spent on what, 6 nights of boxing? No, whatever it is.
And let's add like UFC pay-per-views. That's another 12.
Yeah.
That's another 12. Oh man, it's hard. Thank God's tax.
Super chats are welcome.
Okay, so we both agree pay-per-view is not a consumer-friendly model. Do we agree that the pay-per-view, even though it's not a consumer-friendly model, has been helpful to get fighters paid more than they've ever been paid in previous eras.
Well, yeah, that's how they, I guess, attracted a big fight. You know, it'll be a pay-per-view fight. You'll make this, you'll get a percentage of, off the pay-per-view and blah, blah, blah. I mean, sort of going back to the Wilder thing, I think DAZN have kind of had a little say in how this recent pay-per-view is done, because obviously the 20 million offer for what, the money to try and lure him away from there has meant they've had to try and cover that to keep obviously Wilder happy. So that's kind of put them in a hole in that direction. But yeah, to get the big fights, you pay.
No, I'm just talking from the fighter's perspective, right? In the pay-per-view model, they make money more than they do without it, right?
I think every boxer wants to be a pay-per-view star or a pay-per-view, fight on a pay-per-view, even undercard,
How do we get to a point in the industry where we have fighters get paid what they think they deserve without the pay-per-view influx on the consumer? Like, maybe that's an answer or a question that, like, I don't have an answer for. Maybe you don't have an answer for, or a guess for. Listeners out there, maybe guys don't have a guess for, but just, like, that's the conversation we need to have. Like, how do we get to this point where we can appease both bases here? Because let's be honest, like, all of us here, let's agree, fuck the networks, fuck the sanctioning bodies, fuck the promoters. Those three organizations and institutions are naturally oppressive against fighters and consumers. So as just a pure class struggle here, fighters and consumers, how do we get to a point where we, the consumers, are appeased? Because let's be honest, the pay-per-view model has been hurting us for 30 years, 40 years now. But it has been super helpful for fighters. It has made boxers some of the highest paid athletes in the sport, and boxers on a whole, the highest paid combat sports athlete in the world because of pay-per-view.
A very fine, very, very small percentage of the boxing, but but
how do we get to a point with that top 1%? Because that top 1% of fighters are largely the powers that be when it comes to the fighter class. How do they get to an industry or a structure where they get paid what they think they deserve? Because I do think, in large part, some of these fighters deserve to get paid these huge amounts. Like, they put on an amazing night of entertainment. They risk their lives in an age where we know more about that than ever. Like, in an age where we know more about CTE than ever, we should be willing to pay them whatever they're willing to get paid. But we use it on a model that is naturally oppressive to consumers because we have to pay such an exorbitant amount considering the rest of the sporting landscape. Again, I don't have an answer for this. I just want to throw this idea out there, audience listeners. Think about this question. Like, think about, how do we get to that point? What does that point even look like? What does that model look like? I don't know.
I mean, I want the fighters to get as much money as they can get their hands on. That's fine. I've got no problem with that. But asking the public to make that money seemingly on a fairly regular basis when we already have to pay for our cable bills where we think the fighting's going to be anyway, and then we have to pay on top of our cable bill or our Sky subscriptions or our BT subscriptions, I think that's a bit much. So maybe the fighters won't be getting what they think they deserve, but if consumers sort of vote with their debit cards or their remote controls and not press those buttons and not say I'm not going to get that fight or I'm not paying for that, I think the market's suffering anyway, because I think we're in a day and age where it doesn't seem to matter what these companies try and do. You will find a stream. You will find a way of watching it without spending that money.
I knew tons of people that were going to just watch it on a stream. Cole James Cash, the from Ghetto News Network, who came on the show to talk about politics and race and boxing. We're talking about Wilder Ortiz. He was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely going to just find a stream for that."
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it all week. It's like, America had to pay $75. It was free here. So, no, it wasn't. You still paid like £40 or whatever for your Sky subscription. It's not like necessarily free. I don't know, but I just feel if it is sort of consumer driven that we don't buy this pay-per-view. We make a joint trying to get the boxing community together is like basically impossible, but like not to pay for it. Then fighters will have to maybe adjust or investment or whatever has to come in to give these fighters what they deserve. But to take it out of consumers' pockets constantly, I think, is a bit of a liberty. But I'm guilty of buying it when it's a Sky pay-per-view, or I mean, BT haven't offered a lot of it. It's like a 4 a.m. or whatever. Fury's been out in Vegas and things like that, so I don't necessarily buy the really late ones. I mean, but yeah, I think it is a bit of a liberty considering what we pay to watch general boxing anyway, and then to be asked, and especially when you think, is this one pay-per-view worth it?
Wilder Ortiz too was that question in a large way.
That isn't, I guess, a pay-per-view fight, but the demands of the
market,
the market and the money, currently. I know you've done a piece about the financial bubble kind of thing of it all.
You toot my own horn.
Mixedcombatradio.com.
Yes. Great article, by the way. The author's amazing, by the way. Great writer.
Yeah. I worked hard. No, shout out to Matt. Put it all together. A lot of research, but yeah, just the way structurally and financially we are at the moment, and the influx, with like the Zone and ESPN Plus, and the market trying to find its sort of level, where
balance.
Things have gone crazy, and Jesse Vargas got like 1.7 million for Delorme, and it's
1.3 million against Humberto Soto, and he wasn't even the co-main event on the card.
That was a war, though. He deserved that. He did deserve that. That was a war. But yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how but I think it will level out. But as far as pay-per-view, I think they're coming thick and fast. I think Espinoza said he's doing like Showtime will be. Was it like 2 to 4?
Well, the deal with the in-demand deal is that, because that's also a distributor for Showtime as well. 2 of them will be for Showtime, 2 of them will be for Fox, is what in-demand is saying.
Yeah, so Tank's getting a pay-per-view on Showtime.
Yeah, me and Gary are talking about that. We said Tank Leo for the Showtime pay-per-view for sure.
That's one. And then Tank somebody else.
You think that's what it is? You think it should be the second
Tank?
Who
else is it?
We were thinking that the Wilder Fury 3 fight is a possibility. Spence Garcia has a possibility for maybe like August.
Spence ain't going to be on Showtime. I don't know where you're getting that from.
Look, possibility. I understand it's probable.
I don't look.
I don't think they get 2. I don't think they get 2 pay-per-views. Like, I don't think they're going to meet that deal.
I think you're going to see Tank twice on Showtime pay-per-view.
Then what's the second fight?
I don't know.
Well, because Leo would be the first fight, right? And that'd be pay-per-view. I can kind of understand why they do that. I'm not for it, but I understand why they would make that pay-per-view.
Probably be the rematch when Leo drops. I'm joking. I nearly said that without laughing. I don't know. But there's no one else really on. Look, Fox are the premier network with the better fighters. Showtime have got the dregs, right?
That's what Bill Wagner said, or Wanger.
Wanger, yeah, get it right. Don't make his name sound stupid, Matt, by getting it wrong, okay? It's Bill Wanger, or Bob, whatever it was. Bill or Bob. I apologize.
It was definitely Bill. It was definitely Bill.
Well, it's definitely Wanger as well, so we got it. Bill Wanger. Such children. Yeah, I've lost. But no, they have got the best fighters. That's contractually in the thing.
Oh yeah, PSK bring up Broner. That's right. I did mention Broner. I was like Keith Thurman and Adrian Broner Showtime pay-per-view.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought.
No. I'm not saying it's going to be a good pay-per-view. I'm just saying would Showtime make that pay-per-view?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think they got to do something.
I said, yeah.
Yeah, why not? I don't know, but maybe it'd be Eubank Charlo.
I think we all agree that all the pay-per-views we've mentioned have been like not successful events probably, but they're like semi-decent fights. Like Eubank Charlo, I think is like legitimately just not a good fight the more I think about it, because it never happens because Matt Korobov's just going to outbox Eubank into oblivion. And plus, I mean, talk about two guys that really have great natural ability but zero accuracy. Because Jamal Charlo cannot hit anyone lately. Brandon Adams was slipping every goddamn shot. Chris Eubank can't hit a goddamn side of a barn. Okay, those two guys.
He throws enough that something will land.
Oh my god,
he's like a workhorse.
Let's not talk about that. Pay-per-view.
Very quickly for UK fans, speaking of bleeding consumers, if you want to watch.
Oh no, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that later. That's the last topic of the show, Rob. Don't worry.
Oh, stay tuned. Big news.
Stay tuned.